we didn't want to have just anyone as the first guest ever on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman. So we're picking the person who, if you don't know this, John, has the best winning percentage of any manager since the end of World War II.
I did.
And any manager overall who's managed 900 games, and there's over 150 guys who's done that. That's the manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Welcome, Dave Roberts. Thank you so much for joining us.
Joel, John, this is going to be fun, man. I'm honored. I'm excited. You guys are literally two of my favorites, just as much as you guys love baseball. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and congratulations to both you guys.
Oh, that's nice of you, Dave. Dave, at the moment we're speaking, your team is averaging the second most runs in the major leagues. It's giving up, on average, the second fewest runs in the major leagues. It's top 10 in the major leagues in defensive runs saved. It's leading the NL West with the second best record in the National League. You've got a 1.5 game lead. And yet, Dave, I've got to be honest with you. Every time I watch your team, I'm like, what's wrong with the Dodgers? And the numbers say there's nothing wrong with the Dodgers. Is there nothing wrong with the Dodgers and I'm just holding you to too high a standard? Or do you even feel like this isn't a team clicking the way we expect this team to click?
I don't. I think it's more the latter, Joel. I don't think that we're clicking. I mean, I think that certainly you can look at the roster, you can look at the back of the baseball cards, and certainly the run differential. But it's like, you know, each game, I just think that with the offense, there's just been inconsistencies in performance. We got shut out last night at Coors, and obviously there was a late get-in the night before, which I still don't want to use it as an excuse, but I still think that I'm okay, and I think the players are okay with being held to a certain standard, and that's sort of part of it.
Dave, I want to ask you about Los Angeles. One of my favorite places on earth. I love Los Angeles. It has the reputation of being kind of laissez-faire, not that emotional about the games. I think that's wrong. I mean, you're from San Diego. You went to school at UCLA. You played for the Dodgers. You're now the Dodger manager. It feels like you're criticized. I mean, Joel read your stats. I mean, you're one of the best managers in the game and all time. And it feels like you're over-criticized to me. It feels to me like Los Angeles has the wrong reputation. I think it's a much tougher town than people give it credit for, if you want to call it credit. How do you feel? I mean, it seems like you take the criticism well. I mean, I was there when the president of the United States criticized something that you did, and you took it very, very well. You deal with it beautifully, but how do you feel in LA? I mean, people say it's not New York or Philadelphia, but I feel like it is.
You know what? It's interesting is I think it's so obviously when you talk about New York and Philadelphia and you talk about the expectations that the media, the fans have for the players and management and head coaches or managers, a lot of it is accountability. And I think for me, I think that and how you play the game and also obviously, like I said, accountability. And for me, think it makes you a better manager, a better player, because you're held to a certain standard in the Northeast. I think the West Coast has a bad rap in the sense of the laissez-faire, certainly with our ball club, with the way we play the game of baseball. I think the criticism a lot of times, Joel, comes from people that if something is done differently, I think that people have a hard time adjusting. And a lot of the things that I kind of was criticized for, and, you know, baseball's doing that now. But you can't certainly, it's hard to change a narrative that's already kind of embedded in who you are. And I've learned to sort of live with it. And I do know that the industry appreciates what we do. My players respect me, myself, and my staff. So, you know, that's kind of how I look at it.
You know, Dave, just to not that you need it, but like 6 for 6 in making the playoffs. You're in your 7th year as manager there. You won the division title the first 5 years. When you didn't win the division title, your team won 106 games, tying the franchise record of the 2019 Dodgers, by the way, managed by Dave Roberts. Managing is always difficult. You were mentioning some of the offensive inconsistencies. I always think perhaps the toughest thing to do for a manager is manage the skilled player as he ages and is not as good as he once was. And sitting right in the middle of your lineup is Justin Turner at age 37, I believe, not having a good year. Do you think he's had a bad couple of months and you're going to get Justin Turner Or are you going to have the difficult managerial situation? You won a championship, by the way, the first one since 1988, with this player as a key guy. He's been as key as just about anyone. What does the manager of the Dodgers have to do with this player?
There's the tough question. Atta baby, Joel. No.
Well, I'm pointing out all the nice things, Dave. With
I
the
love
softball.
it. There you
So,
go.
yeah.
That was a good segue. That was nice.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'll tell you, managing a player, a star player who's aging, is very difficult. Is one of the toughest things I've had to do in my tenure. Adrian Gonzalez, who is a very good friend of mine, Andre Ethier, Matt Kemp, Albert Pujols, and now you're talking about Justin Turner. It's threading the needle, and it's a very small hole because what the player has done for you, for the organization, you still believe in the player. And in one particular moment, a particular game, I trust them, and I trusted those guys. But performance certainly matters. I think he's third on the team in runs batted in, and that's a statistic I still believe in. When there's a situation to drive in a run, I believe that he can do it. So I also feel, Joel, is that you also have to have a solution. And the way that our guys have been swinging the bat as far as consistency, you have to have somebody that you can feel that can supplant Justin and do a better job. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But as far as the player, the person, I certainly am guilty of probably being slower moving than most people might think. Yeah.
Well, we heard what Joel's concerned about. I was going to ask you about what you're concerned about with the team. Obviously, there have been some starting pitching injuries with your team and many others. I mean, we've seen Heaney. We got to wait for May, see what's going on with him. Obviously, Kershaw has been in and out to some degree, still one of the best pitchers when he's healthy. And, from a distance, at least, Kimbrel has not really been himself either. What's really on your mind right now? What do the Dodgers need to worry about or improve?
It's and obviously, Walker Buehler was our ace this year,
right?
And so to hope to get him back in September is we're hoping. But I think for me, John, I think I make it a point. It's very intentional that I don't overtly talk about things like that. Obviously, this forum, our conversation right here, I think it's more of, I hope we don't lose any more pitching. But I think we do a really good job. And Joe, you mentioned it as far as the consistencies of our ball club over the years, and that's something I'm really proud of because every year teams go through adversity, but we still find a way to essentially average close to 100 wins a year. And I expect us to do it again. And I think looking forward, and sort of that trite next man up mentality, that's what I do believe in. And I think that once we lost Mookie Betts, the offense clicked up as far as the focus. And, you lose Walker, you lose guys in the pen, and Tony Gonsolin, Tyler Anderson, Julio Urias stepped up, hit the last 4 starts, and we got Clayton back. So guys pick up the slack. And I think that mindset is very healthy, and it's the only way to look at it.
Yeah. You mentioned Mookie Betts. Right now, you're missing your best starting pitcher, Buehler. You say you're hoping to get him back in September. Betts is your best everyday player. When are you hoping to get him back? Because I was reading some coverage from your team. It seemed like he is not real close right at this moment.
He's going to start baseball activities tomorrow, which is Wednesday. And so it's probably a week to 10 days at best. We were hoping, obviously it's a disappointing loss. We were hoping to get him back by the San Diego series. That's not going to happen, but we just need to get Mookie back feeling good, healthy, because certainly when he's in there, he's electric, and he's just such a fun player. And I'm just so fortunate to get to watch him and, put him and Trey Turner behind him with Freddie Freeman. It's an electric lineup. It's fun.
That return by Freddie Freeman to Atlanta was very emotional for him, obviously, and for the fans. And I just thought it was interesting to see how upset he seems to be, or how much he misses Atlanta. And others noticed it as well. Obviously, Clayton Kershaw, he made a comment about it afterwards, saying, talking about Freeman, Kershaw said, I think whenever he gets comfortable over here, he'll really enjoy it. What have you seen from Freddie? I mean, I love LA myself. I'd go there. I can't play and I'm not going to help you. I mean, he's obviously one of the best 10 players in baseball. He's performing for you as you'd expect. He's been great. I've seen a lot of your games. He's good defensively. He's obviously hitting around 300. Does he seem uncomfortable to you? And I mean, is this an issue at this point?
I think, I use the word resolution, and I know Freddie doesn't like the word closure. And I think that that's reasonable in the sense that he spent 15 years in the organization, 12 in the big leagues, pouring his heart and soul into the ball club, the organization, the fans, and family too. And he raised his kids there. And so for me, I am very sympathetic towards that. And honestly, guys, I love a person, as I really try to pride myself on getting better each year, each day, of being transparent. And Freddie is emotional. He wears his emotions on his sleeves. We're all different. You East Coasters are a lot more tough and don't show your emotions, you guys. But you know what? Freddie is a West Coaster, man, and that's okay. For me, he's honest and about his feelings. It hasn't obviously affected his performance with the Dodgers. He plays to win. He's a pro. But I don't think that you can compare Atlanta to Los Angeles right now. The sample is not even close. So for me, I think Clayton said something a little tongue in cheek, took a little out of context. I know that they're good. They're two of my favorites, and they're going to help us, win a lot of ball games this year.
Dave, as a tough New Yorker, I'm going to cry at the end of this interview.
Yeah, right. You guys cry on the inside, believe me.
It's a crying on the inside clown. Cody Bellinger wins the National League MVP in 2019, and it really hasn't been good since then. Interestingly, literally over the last 2 seasons, he's played exactly 162 games as we're speaking here. He has a 593 OPS. He has just 19 homers. Where has Cody Bellinger gone, and is he ever coming back?
Okay. First of all, I don't know. To win an MVP, everything's got to line up. Unless you're Mike Trout, where you're. So it was a special year, 2019 for Cody. Is he ever going to get to that caliber? That's a question only time will tell. I think that having never come close to winning a most valuable player, I don't know what it's like to try to chase something that you had already achieved, and you don't understand why you can't be that type of performer consistently. I live in real time, and I've had many conversations with Cody that we've got to find a way to get past that and deal in the now and understand the player you are right now. And for me, I don't see him as that guy intentionally trying to hit homers and slug. I see him as a guy that needs to dominate center field, that needs to value the walk, that needs to use the entire baseball field to hit in the middle to the bottom of the order to continue to pass the baton. And if he can do that, he can help us win a lot of ball games and also drive runs in. And so that's something that a player, their own cross to bear. So I know I kind of circled around that question, but I don't know that answer. I mean, only time will tell, but I do believe that when his head is right, the mindset is right, he can be a very consistent performer like he was last year in the postseason with, I think, a 900 OPS.
Dave, if I could just follow up on that, because you're an expert on the two things about Cody Bellinger, which is you're a baseball expert, the swing, and you're around him all the time. You mentioned his mental aspect. I mean, do you see a guy whose swing and mental aspect are far off now and he can't get back to what it was? Or do you think those things can align again, not to be an MVP, but, you mentioned middle to bottom lineup. Can he be a 5th, 6th place hitter, quality 5th, 6th place hitter? Because we know he gives you the other stuff, defense, base running. I mean, he's one of the better athletes in the sport. You're an expert on the two items and on Cody Bellinger. Do you think it's retrievable?
If Cody is of the mind to be an on-base machine, a run producer, a doubles machine, I think he can get back to being as productive a player as he would hope to be, which would considerably make us a much better ball club. I think that, you know, there's certainly some mechanic point. Last year, he was definitely bothered by the shoulder injury, which is real. But I do think that the consistent intent approach hasn't been there. And Freddie Freeman is a prime example of a person that even when it's not great, you can still be a productive major league hitter. And that's, I think that's what we need from him.
You're on pace now. We talked about all the faults of your team. You're on pace for 101 wins. You averaged 101 wins over your career. So you're right on pace. At the beginning of the year, I think, and we weren't sure we were going to have baseball at this moment, but you guaranteed the World Series for the Dodgers. So I should check back with you. At this moment, and we've got a man in here, our producer, wearing a Yankee cap. So he reminds me that the Yankees have been the best team to this point. Do you still guarantee, you still feel like the Dodgers are the best team and are going to win the World Series?
I'm not going to go back on that comment. I think that that's the standard that we set for ourselves, and there's not a person that doesn't feel that way, expect that from our ball club. The caveat was keeping our pitching healthy. To that statement, I did say that, and I really mean it. And pitching wins championships. Yankees have been the best team all year up to this point. I'm very happy for Booney and what they're doing over there. For us, we've got to continue to get better. It's about getting our guys playing the best baseball at the right time. And like I said, we've talked about earlier, is I think our best baseball is ahead of us. So to make my words come true, let's get our guys back to being healthy, and then it's my job, it's our job to go out there and play our best baseball at the right point in time to make my words come to fruition.
Dave, you mentioned that the best is ahead of you. So why don't I wrap up asking this? You've also lost Daniel Hudson for the season. He was a key setup guy. Blake Trinan is a guy who's not there. I mean, you as I mentioned, your best starter, Buehler, your best everyday player, Betts. Why do you think your best baseball is ahead of you?
I just think that the run prevention side, and I guess I would say that I would say that's more on the offensive side, I guess, because we've really cleaned a lot of things up defensively. We're catching the baseball. Run prevention, albeit without a lot of names that you guys have mentioned, we're preventing runs. And I just think that the offense, to kind of have that team external focus to win a ball game, we haven't had that consistently. At times we've shown it, and other times we haven't. And so once we kind of get that supplanted, get that dialed in, it's going to be really consistent run production from our club, and which will equate to more consistent wins.
Dave, we've talked a lot about the 2022 Dodgers today. I'm going to ask you a question about the 2004 Red Sox. We have our man here with our Yankee cap on. He's shaking his head. He's not happy with me. He is not happy at all. Andrew Hart's very upset about this, but I've got to ask you, what do you recall? The stolen base was the key to that comeback. What I remember is, I think the previous game when the Yankees made it 3-0, it was like 18-7 or something like that. The Yankees had won the game. And I remember seeing A-Rod in the stands, and I said to him, you guys got this, for some stupid comment like that. And he said, you never know in baseball. And that stolen base was really the key. What do you recall about it? Was it a signal? Why did you go? And, it was close at second, but you were in there. What do you remember about it?
Well, first off, I just want to apologize to little Andrew for breaking his foot in October. I know he's probably scarred for life, but my apologies, Andrew. I think with that ball club, John, what's remarkable is that everyone knew their roles. That was something that was pretty unique. I got traded over there late at the deadline, and from a first place team to then being a role player, and I embraced that. And so it's one of those situations that Terry Francona defined my role, that any big spot to pinch run for essentially anybody, not named Johnny Damon, you're going to run and, try to impact the game. And so the sacrifice bunt was on, and I waved off Dale Swen, the third base coach. And I give Tito all the credit because they took off the bunt sign from Bill Miller. And Lynn Jones, my first base coach, said, "All right, kid, do what you do." And so it was one of those things that was my role. And I was ready. I was watching video. I saw Mo in September in Yankee Stadium. I knew he was going to hold the baseball if there was ever an encounter again with us two. And so that's exactly what he did. After the third throw over, I was prepared. And it's one of those, you got to kind of put your, four-letter word out there sometimes and see what happens. And I put him out there. And, I'm just very grateful because I was on a great team. I had a great manager, great organization, and I had an opportunity, and I wasn't afraid to fail. And sports fans always look to one moment as a defining moment, a change of the tide, and a spark, and that was it. And so it's something I never take for granted. We had a cast of superstars, and I played a little part in it. And like I said, Andrew, I'm sorry, but I would do the same thing all over again, my man. There's nothing better than beating the Yankees. So sorry, John.
Well,
I'm fine. I'm okay with it. It's Andrew.
we'll see if you're on a collision course to having to beat the Yankees in October. Yeah. I'm so glad John asked that question 5.7 miles away from Yankee Stadium. So we have to fight our way out of here today. John and I know we'll see you in a couple of weeks. You're a coach for the All-Star game. And you mentioned the word appreciation as part of your last answer. You were our first guest ever on the show with Joel Sherman and John Heyman. We have nothing but appreciation for you, Dave Roberts.
Thank you, Dave.
You know what? Thank you guys so much. And my last words, guys, and I just really want to say this is, you guys are two men that I really respect because you really love players. You really love the game. And that's something that I just really applaud you guys because it's such a great game. The greatest game ever created. And I don't want to lose that. And you guys are just really great caretakers of our game. And I'm really thankful for you too.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you so much.